which is, do you think that films such as Fight Club and Ong Bak, or video games such as Modern Warfare 2 or any other first-person shooters, glamorise violence? For or against? Anybody like to make a start? No? It's alright, it'll take a while to get into things. I know it's a bit... Yes, okie dokes, carry on.
It's not really glamorising violence, it's actually adding to the realism of it. It's actually trying to get the player to actually enjoy the game more.
Okie dokes, yeah.
Actually, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I see what you're trying to say, yeah, okie dokes. Gijo?
In contrast to that, it actually does glamorise violence because it rewards people fancying that and doesn't show any consequences for that violence.
Very good point. Yeah, would you like to retort to that one at all? No? Because he's just completely kind of smacked down what you were saying. You want to fight back? No? Okie dokes. Yeah, Molly?
In films and video games, people like violence. Like it's entertaining. So if there was no violence, then it would be boring and there'd be no entertainment. So it doesn't really glamorise it, it just...
Could somebody not argue that there are more wholesome ways of entertainment, rather, because you've just said violence is entertaining?
Yeah, because it is, and like in almost every game there is violence, some sort of violence, and that's just...
Can you give some examples?
Cards.
Yeah.
Well, every game really.
Okay, so what, you're arguing that they don't glamorise it, but it's just...
It's just an element. There's no like
emphasis.
Yeah, it doesn't really like encourage you to do it in real life. It's just an element that you have to do in the game.
Okay, good point. Yes, Stu.
Games from the very beginning have always had some form of violence. Look at Pac-Man. I mean, you were going to go and all the ghosts and so Space Invaders, you go and kill all the
Okay, so
it's just as things progress.
These guys are now arguing that violence comes hand in hand with contemporary entertainment in a way. Any responses to that? How do you guys feel about that? Do you think, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And particularly Molly's point on the fact that it doesn't encourage you to be violent. What about things like the Jamie Bulger case and other examples where, Columbine shooting? Are you familiar with this? Yeah? Anything that you want to add? Yeah?
The thing is, after Fight Club was released, people, I think it was just in America, people started making their own Fight Clubs immediately. Yeah. So it kind of like influences them, and they see it on TV and they think, or in a film, and they think, oh, that's pretty cool, why don't we do it?
Yeah. Okay, dokes, yeah, Gijo?
Before Ashish was talking about the games, violence making the games realistic, then he was saying that before they've always had an element of violence. But now that the games are being more realistic, people tend to sort of connect to them more.
Yeah, they're more immersive.
They'll be more immersed, so they'll probably take on characteristics from the actual games, try to balance in real life.
Okay, so Gijo is arguing, that with advances in technology, think about things like the Wii, PlayStation Move, Kinect, as well as that combined with the graphical capabilities of modern computer games consoles, things are becoming that bit more realistic. Yeah, Yong, and then I'll come to you.
Well, based on what Gijo said, how he said modern technology is getting improving and it's getting better. Well, technically, sometimes, like let's say for example, a film like such as Ong Bak. Well, technically, the stuff like the fighting and movements and stuff are basically over-exaggerated in a way. It's like you can't actually do what he can do in real life, like jump off like something really high and not feel a single thing at all. So I want to say it's actually kind of realistic in a way, but since it's over-exaggerated, it's just for entertainment.
So, okie doke. So, are you kind of arguing that because they're so over the top, people might not go out and copy them essentially?
Because it's you wouldn't actually like play a game or watch a movie if it's not like really over exaggerated, like a lot of action in that, because it would be like really lame and dull.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay, Andy, you had your hand up.
What Gijo was on about, like how it's being more immersive with technology, like game developers now taking that into mind. Like with Battlefield 3, they've not added any like civilians in that you can shoot. So it takes that like sort of violence out of it, and people that do copy films like Fight Club or On Bag, like that's only a select few. It's not like the majority of the population going around doing it. So why is it such a big deal?
So you're saying that it's a small minority essentially ruining things for the majority of people who understand, yeah? Stu, you had your hand up for a while. And by the way, guys, as well, I do expect everybody to be participating, and if you don't, then I'll pick on you. Alright? Stu.
I mean, that's why they've introduced age ratings.
Yeah, good, I'm glad somebody brought this up. Yeah, do you want to go run with that point a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, they understand that games and technology are a lot more immersive and a lot more realistic now, you know. So, to kind of combat that, I suppose, they're aiming it at certain people.
Yeah. What do you guys think about age ratings? Yeah, Reese?
It does help, but what's stopping the parents going out and buying it for them? There's nothing stopping them doing it, or the elder brother or sister.
Yeah.
That takes it out of the hands of the media industry, though, doesn't it? It doesn't. That's the parents' fault rather than.
I mean, obviously, age ratings are there to protect both the consumer and the producer. But I suppose one thing that obviously age ratings don't take into account is mental state. You know, because obviously, you know, even if you give somebody who's 18 years old an 18 game, they still might be a little bit kooky and kind of maybe take things a step too far. Ashish, you had your hand?
Just going back to Andy's point, it's like the thing that just happened in America about the 99% versus the 1%.
What was that about?
It's literally people who are like the majority of people are getting like, blamed for just the 1% that's done something bad. So it's like us gamers, we're getting blamed for the 1% because we're the 99%. So if one person does something bad, the rest get blamed for it as well.
Yep, media scapegoating, you know, witch hunts, something known as the deviance amplification spiral. I'll leave that one to you guys to look up. Yes?
Sort of agreeing with the Sheesh. It's like, we're getting the blame, it's not everyone. It's like, people are like going out and doing this stuff like the cases for GTA about the murders. But it's that 1%, it's not all of us. And because of that 1%, it's coming back on every single like gamer that plays violent games.
Okie dokes, yeah.
To furthermore what you were saying is that the actual 1% of the people, like, they don't, the 99% of the people have been brought up with the understanding that this is wrong, this is bad.
Yeah.
And how to go about living just a general normal life.
Yeah.
And that probably 1% has not really had that sort of uprising with their parents.
Yeah.
And maybe that sort of influenced them to, you know, not understanding what's right and what's wrong.
Okay,
and
so
therefore to go out and do what
it's
they do.
the age-old argument, the idea that parents are essentially responsible for their kids' actions. But just want to kind of steer us back onto track now. The original question is, do these kinds of games glamorise violence? And what kind of effect does that have? Anybody want to add? Josh?
I'd just like to say, I think it does, in a way, glamorise violence, because you're always playing as some big, tough soldier. You know, you're always like 3%, and you always killing like nameless like enemies. And then you've got games where you're getting like more points, experience for like the more you kill, or like the more inventive ways you kill them.
Yes, yeah. Can you give us any examples?
I was looking at that Bulletstorm, where you get like tossing up in the air and like shooting the behind, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okie doke, so you're kind of talking about the fact that if the games weren't glamorising violence, then there would be maybe more of an emphasis on character development or story development, but instead, with games like Bulletstorm, you get additional points for the more gruesome or the more creative ways of killing people. Yeah?
But in Bulletstorm, it's not realistic at all in any way. It's not realistic. You got cactuses that eat people. You got giant cactuses that actually try and kill you. You've got a whip that doesn't exist, which is literally made out of some random stuff. So you can lift massive objects. It's not in any way you won't think that's you. Not anyone will really.
Care to retort, Josh?
Well, it's not just games like Bulletstorm, you get like other games such, even like COD, where you get more like experience for like headshots, then you do body shots and like more different ways you kill them. Like more XP for like killing multiple ones with grenades, stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. Henry, you had your hand up there a second.
Yeah, I was just saying about within the majority of games with excessive amounts of violence, they tend to be so over-exaggerated that it's kind of ridiculous, really. In all the games that people get blamed, like things like GTA and Call of Duty, are kind of loosely based around things that happen in real life, and fair enough, there's violence in it, but it's trying to put the fact across that this kind of thing does happen, and it's something you need to take into account, because like Bulletstorm, God of War, where you can like tear people's heads off, it's just a joke, really.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
It kind of allows them to increase the violence because it's something that might not necessarily.
So Henry's kind of saying that, you know, violence is something that happens. It does happen, and I mean, you know, you can probably see more harrowing, upsetting footage on the 6 o'clock news than you actually would playing one of these kind of unrealistic, comic violence video games. Stu?
I think if you compare films to games, I think films are a lot worse for violence than what games are.
Okay, why is that? That's an interesting point.
Well, if you look at a horror film like Saw or something like that, it's just disgusting. You know, it's real. It's real people, isn't it?
What about I've just finished Heavy Rain? I had to cut my own thumb off playing that.
But it's not. It doesn't. If you look at a film, they actually, you can watch it in HD, and they're all, you actually look like you're there, and it's more immersive. You know, than what I would say.
Interesting. Anyone on this side care to come back to that one? Yeah, Andy?
Games are the more immersive feeling. Like, just because you can interact with how you kill people, that's the problem. Like with Manhunt, they had to ban Manhunt from the Wii because you had to simulate like strangling people with the Wii remote and stuff like that. So how can you justify that?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
All this stuff about making decisions on how people die and things like that. There are some movies out. I know one of the Final Destinations allows you to, on the DVD, allows you to choose how the people die. So you'll come into a scenario, and then there's this scene where there's 2 girls in what they call sunbeds.
Oh yeah.
And you can either have them, something collapse on top of them, they burn, or they get electrocuted, and you just choose what you want to do. So it's not just games. It's not just the games that like give the options of how you kill people, really, or how much violence you want to.
Yeah. So again, going back to, it's essentially technology. As technology improves, more creative ways of actually interacting with these kinds of things. Johanna.
With the whole glamorising, when you're playing a game like COD and you've got the gun, it doesn't actually teach you how to reload the gun. It's just quick. You can't actually see it done. So unless you're mad enough to actually go out and learn how to do it, there's no point, because it doesn't teach you, oh, this is how you reload, put the bullet in like this. It doesn't show you that. But with films, you're kind of watching it, so it's kind of sort of, I don't know, I don't want to seem like on the other side, but it's showing you how to, like, I don't know, with Fight Club, I've not seen it, but I'm guessing it's like boxing. You're actually seeing them hit them, and you can sort of simulate those moves yourself.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, with games like Manhunt, like, fair enough, you're strangling them, but you're not actually going to go out and go, you know what, I'm going to get him with a plastic bag. Because it's just mad, because you know for a fact, when you're playing the game, you're thinking, I'm not going to get locked up for this because it's not actually illegal. But whereas if I go outside, it's not going to look good on me.
So essentially what seems to be the general argument coming from this side is that you need to give the audience some kind of credit, give them some kind of semblance of maturity and the ability to realise that what they're doing is wrong. Yeah? Reese?
If you play games like this that are, for older age and they're, showing violence, children might think that violence is acceptable if they get, their hands on games like this or watch films like this.
So what you're saying, that obviously even the mere existence of these kinds of products is dangerous.
People are going to get their hands on stuff even if they're 10, 11 and they're getting their hands on 18 games and films, and if they watch it, they're only young, so they're going to think, oh, it's acceptable to, punch someone in the face as hard as they can, or you know, stab someone or shoot someone, because it's, you know, they can see it on the TV that it's fine.
Okay, you're just going to go to Andy and then we'll come over to this side.
What Andy was on there? Like the No Russia mission in Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, cool.
In the recent Norway bombing.
Before we go on, everyone know what we're talking about here, the airport mission on Modern Warfare 2, yeah?
He, the guy who like went around dressed as a police officer and murdered all those civilians, he actually used that mission to get a feel to how killing civilians would be, and he actually trained off that mission. And he said he trained off Grand Theft Auto as well, to just go around and see how it would be to kill just people.
Okay, well, obviously, you know, the Activision put in the warning before you actually played the game, didn't they? So would anybody like to pick up on that point at all? Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to kill civilians in that level anyway, because you can walk through the whole level without killing one civilian, because I've done it. That's what I did, because I obviously don't want to kill anyone. But that's, yeah, he was just messed in the head. He was one guy who thought, wait, this is a good idea. No one else in the world would think of that. It's again, it's the 1%.
But then again, it still gives him, like, he still went around and he felt the emotion of killing real life people through that game. So it's still wrong in some way. Even though you don't have to, he still did because he wanted to.
Shai, you had your hand up for
Yeah, following from what we said about how kids get their hands on it, simple question is, how do they get their hands on it?
You know, their parents might buy it them, or they've got brothers.
So then therefore, who's to blame then?
Well, they're to blame, but it's, you know, it can, children, you know, can think anything's real, so they might think violence and, you know, taking drugs or whatever is acceptable because someone that they see on TV is doing it.
But on behalf of the media, it should be their parents' duty to explain to them what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Therefore, that you can't target the media there. It's actually the parents' fault, or whoever's buying them the games or giving them access to watching these films and other forms of media.
So, Reese, are you arguing that violence in general in any form of media should be banned completely? Because what about this? I'll come to Henry and then we'll go to you, Josh. What about things like religious art? Religious art can be and is some of the most gruesome stuff, even more gruesome than some video games and films. Some of the things that go on in those religious depictions are quite horrific. So why is it that video games are blamed more than religious art? Anybody? Yeah, Reese?
Because video games are more interactive than looking at a picture. Looking at a picture, it don't move, it don't show you how it ended up that way. In a video game, you see it happening, which is more realistic than just looking at a portrait.
Okay, yeah, Henry, you had your hand up.
Really on what you said. Religion's a bit of a touchy area. It's a bit hit and miss, and people that, if you try and slay a religion, chances are you're gonna get it in the neck. Whereas something like the media industry, it's just a media industry, so it's easy to have a go at that and blame that. And going on from what Andy was talking about, I think it's unfair to say that a media product like a game or a movie alone is to blame for what someone did. I mean, it's not necessarily the violence in the game that makes someone do it, it's how that person interprets that violence. Yeah. So things like your upbringing, your parents, where you live, even things like this, and just the way you are, kind of it all kind of adds up and leads to the way you see how that violence is. So yeah. Someone like a normal person would see that and think, okay, killing civilians, that's not great, best avoid that. Someone that might have had a tough upbringing, might have had like witnessed domestic violence and things like that. Yeah. Just like the parents will let them do what they want, or get with the wrong crowd, it kind of just doesn't faze them as much. So
okay, we'll go Josh and then Stu.
Well, I just wanted to say to Sham about how it's up to the parents' responsibilities. They should sit down with the kids, talk about that. But that rarely happens. Like, have you ever played COD, Grand Theft Auto? Yeah. Are you 18? Have your parents ever sat down with you and said, look, this stuff you're playing on your Xbox, it's not real. Please do not go outside and do this.
However, let me first
yeah, you can
first
talk
of all,
to that.
I don't
Yeah.
have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation 3. And secondly, when I was younger, there was a time where mum and dad obviously sat me down and said, look, this is obviously wrong, like don't go into guns or don't go into knives or something, go into this sort of, you know, follow this good side sort of thing. And therefore, ever since then, I've obviously, you use your own knowledge and your own ability to understand what's right and what's wrong. Therefore, obviously I'm not 18, but I know when I play these games, I'm not going to go out and do it because I've had that sort of talk or upbringing before when I was young. And therefore, that 1% of people that don't have that are going to more likely be able to go out in the streets and actually do that.
Okay, we're just going to go to Stu and then Reese.
In terms of glamorising violence, I don't know one game where it says, you know, here's a knife, this is how you hold it, and if you stab it, you know, stab someone in the neck just here, it could, you know, kill him, and or here's a gun, and it says pick one up and this is how you aim. You know, it's not picking up a real gun is whenever you're fired one, it's a lot different than it's just pressing X on the controller.
So it's within the context, obviously,
Yeah.
of the narrative and the story. And yeah. Okay, Reese.
Go back to what Josh said. The media industry can't be held responsible for what parents decide to do. You know, you were saying that not everyone sits their kids down. It's not the media industry's fault. That's the parents' fault. They should be teaching their kids better values when they're younger, so they know when they're older, when they're playing these games, that they're not to go out and kill people or to go out and run people over.
Good stuff. Okay, we're just going to leave that one now, and we're going to move on to one of the next questions. Something a little closer to home, the summer riots. Summer riots in the UK this year prompted some interesting media censorship issues, with the government proposing to shut down Facebook and BlackBerry's instant messaging service. Where do you think that the line should be drawn between a government trying to protect its people and human rights infringements? Henry?
Shutting down things like Facebook and BBM isn't going to make a difference at all. I mean, these are just kind of two outlets in which we communicate, but there's probably hundreds of thousands more like different ways of people doing it. I mean, you've got your phone calls, texting, and there's about 30,000 different social networking sites you can contact each other on. So just, I know these two are maybe the most popular, but where if this gets taken down, people will try and find a way around it to get things organised. It might slow it down, but it won't prevent it entirely.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Ant, you've actually come up for a while.
I think most people are on Facebook or BBM every day, and it's just taking away like the human rights. I mean, you've got people doing the riots and that, but you can't take out on other people that aren't actually in the riots. You can't say, look, they're doing this, so we're going to like block it for about a couple of hours until it's all blown over, because people are going to want to communicate like family and stuff like that. Fair enough, they could do it over text or phone, but Facebook nowadays is seen as like an easier way to communicate as well as BBM. So you can't really take it down if it's somebody else's fault. It's just not fair on everybody else.
Anyone from this side? These guys are kind of arguing that, yeah, it is a complete infringement of human rights. What do you guys think about that? Do you reckon that's true or not? What about how other people, you know, Ant's arguing that people using these services like Facebook and BlackBerry are going to obviously be affected by the, going back to what you were talking about, the 1%. What about the people who were being affected by the riots? Do you think that they would have appreciated these services being taken offline in order to stop, you know, their houses being looted or their businesses being burnt to the ground? What do you guys think to that?
Yeah, they would have.
Okay, yeah.
Because say you had a business and like these riots started happening, so even if they were communicated through like Facebook and BlackBerry, the media is everywhere and there was still constant news about it. So even if they were taken down, like it doesn't matter because people always see it and they're like, oh well that looks good, like I might go see what's happening. And there was even like cases on the news where people were just going down just to see the riots and they would get involved because they were rioting. So if they took it down, there'd be less people like seeing it and less information about it.
Yeah.
So that would have been helpful.
Okay, so Andy's now arguing that yes, it would have been beneficial for those people being targeted. Yeah, Reese?
I think shutting down the whole services would be wrong, because there's a lot of people that are using it and they're not bothered about the riots and just using it to contact people. I think better moderation on these, like say, sites like Facebook, they should have better moderation on looking for groups like they're trying to organise riots and stuff.
Okay, so I think that's the key word that you're using there is moderation. Okay, rather than shutting it down, you're saying maybe moderating it.
Yeah, more people to check the site and see what's going on.
Okay, Shai.
Oh, I'm just going to go straight into it in the sense that the main reasons why the riots kept on carrying on is obviously through communication with other people. The main reason was that there was a lack of police force. Therefore, my personal opinion would be that the blame is technically on the government, because obviously with all these cuts in the economy right now, job losses, etc., etc. Obviously the police force has got slashed quite a lot. A lot of jobs have been lost. Therefore, there's not many police officers on the streets right now, and therefore it's more easier for people to target a location and say we're gonna do that, because there's not enough police officers to keep the streets safe, and we shouldn't all be blamed for only a few handful of people that actually went there and done that. And it's sort of like all the more older generation people are like, oh, the youths these days have been, they're using the term youths a lot, and we are the youths and we are the younger generation, and like we're getting targeted for something that we haven't done, which I think is slightly, quite biased and wrong.
Sean's making an interesting point here, actually talking about the focus on youth blood, and you guys are the youth, so how do you guys feel about being portrayed in a particular way by the media? No? Okay, I'll leave that one. Stu, you had your hand up.
I was just thinking about the moderation. I mean, we have pieces of software to know when certain words are used in our work and that sort of thing, so you could implement that sort of thing on Facebook.
Yeah.
If riots are used or if key phrases used, then be flagged and they can actually look into stuff. Because even I saw groups on Facebook for weeks that were there for organising riots.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. It was there.
But again, where do you draw? Is that not within people's rights to protest? Who says why is that a bad thing for us to stand up to the government for things that we
when
believe?
When it comes to breaking the law, I think there should be, a line drawn.
Like the bankers. Yes, Reese.
Going to your point of the moderating, what stops them from looking at everyone and keeping an eye on everyone and controlling everyone like everyone else is doing?
But it's not about keeping, it's about keeping everyone safe at the end of the day.
But what's stopping them from looking at what we're all doing and controlling?
Well, they're doing that anyway, whether we like it or not. They know all of our personal details. They've got them on their servers. Whether they're not looking at our personal details as such. They're looking at these group of people are organising, an antisocial act. So we'll shut you down, and no one else can see it.
Josh, you had your hand up there.
I was going to say, surely once they start searching for keywords, searching through all our messages, stuff like that, it's like a slippery slope until, there's only going to be like so much we can go on and only what we can talk about. Like certain places like China and stuff, where they can't access certain websites, can't go on Facebook.
It depends what the public want. If they want to stop all this sort of stuff, they've got to kind of give a bit of leeway.
Anybody want to add anything else? Yes?
Yeah, I mean, the government's priority is public protection. That is what they're there to rule society, basically. And I'm all for the moderating. I think if you're gonna stop violence and to people that are not safe, because it was based that bloke got shot and then the riot started. Then people up in Manchester were doing it because people down south were doing it. So I mean, if you're gonna moderate it, I'm all for that. Yeah.
Okie dokie. So I think we're going to go back a question now, just looking again at video games. And I just want to remind you of the divide between your two groups. The public were outraged by the inclusion of Taliban soldiers in the latest Medal of Honor. EA eventually responded by changing their name to Opposing Force. Do you think that the producers should have given in to public opinion? Now, you guys, I imagine, are going to be saying yay. You guys, I imagine, are going to be saying nay. Okay, just for the size of you on. So, anyone want to go for it? Yes.
I think they definitely should have done, because it's because the war's still going on in Iraq and everything. It's still a little bit of a touchy subject. People are still being affected. Relatives are dying because of the war. So people might be upset about it. So I think changing the name was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. How would you guys like to respond to that one? Remember, this is just role play, so you don't have to actually think what it is that you're saying, or feel what it is that you're saying. Anybody else got anything to add at all? Yeah, Henry?
And I'm on this side.
But
fair enough. The only reason they changed it, I think, is the fact that the Taliban are kind of very revolved around a lot of religion. I mean, you don't see people changing the names of like the Nazis and things like that, which were probably maybe a bigger threat than the Taliban ever were.
Yeah.
Things like Call of Duty, when they attack the zombies, people don't kind of think twice about that. And in a sense, the Taliban and Nazis are both bad guys, so why should we like kind of censor that?
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting point Henry's raised, the fact that, you know, why should an immoral group of people be excluded from something, you know, like using the Nazis as an example is a good reference, because you have World War II video games being produced on an almost daily basis, and nobody seems to bat an eyelid. Yeah, Rob?
The thing is, with the Nazis, they happened like years ago, and there's not many people still alive that were affected by them. Whereas with the Taliban, people are still being affected by now. You know, the war, and members of families dying, and, being killed by the Taliban. So, I do think it was right to change their name.
Okay. Yes, Ash.
Yeah, but then they're portraying what's happening in real life. Therefore, spreading the message saying this is happening, we could do something to stop it. So if the game's using as a media to actually spread the word saying what's happening, be aware, and help.
So you're saying that the video game could potentially be raising awareness of the issues that, Reece and then Andy, you both had your hands for a while.
I mean, a lot of people's, family are losing soldiers because of the, fighting the Taliban. I mean, I don't see the point why EA we're going to call them Taliban just to make it more realistic. I mean, they could have made them look the same, but, I think changing the name was a good thing because, no one, a group of people might care of the name, but a lot of people don't even look. They just, join the game, that's it. They don't look at what team you're on or whatever like that. So I think it is a good thing that they did change the name because a lot of people might have got offended by it.
Okay, what about, this game came out at a very close time to or it came out a couple of months after Modern Warfare 2, am I right in thinking that? Or was it 6 months to a year afterwards? Why do you think, other than potentially, raising awareness, those kinds of things, and maybe heightening the level of realism, what kind of, why do you think that they made the decision to do it? What effect did it have, maybe looking at it from a more business point of view?
Well, first I want to go back to the point Ashish made about it, like heightening, so show what's going on. But it's not doing that at all. It's just literally two opposing forces. They're the bad guys. You shoot them. It's not saying like personal turmoils with the soldiers or the families or anything like that. It's literally you kill them, they kill you. Done. And also, I think a lot of it came down to just the hype. People were talking about it because that's who they were. So
that was it. That was exactly it. I personally think that they did it because they wanted to increase the kind of hype around it because Modern Warfare had received so much for the Russian airport level thing. Yeah, Reece, you had a hand up.
That's what you were saying about the business point of view. If a lot of people who are going to buy the game are upset by it, they're going to take it back. They're going to lose money out of it because a lot of people are just like, no, we don't want to play this game like this. So changing it was a good idea from a business point of view because they get more sales.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Sean?
Go back to what Josh said. It's just, you said that it doesn't matter about, because you've got two opposite sides, the good side and the bad side. But the term Taliban is targeting a certain group of people. Therefore, the thoughts that people get in their head when they relate to the word Taliban could be war, could be family members that have previously died within there, could be those sort of things that surround that word Taliban. Therefore, that they're obviously going to be a bit more. How can I say this? They're going to be a bit more conscious when they play the game because they don't want to relate to that stuff that's happened to them in the past. From the word.
I was saying, I feel it could have came out like that if they'd like made it, given characters some sort of depth, but they never attempted to do that. They literally just gave them the name, and then they're just faceless enemies that you've got to shoot. They've not tried to like relate it back to any sort of real life other than the fact that the name.
Yeah, but I think the name's enough.
Okay, why?
Because
symbolic.
Yeah, it's symbolic of you think of the Taliban, you automatically, the word Taliban automatically springs into your head. Somebody with like a scarf on their head, an AK-47 probably, and just covered in the like desert type costume. You just automatically assume those certain features. Therefore, just by using the word in the game, it's gonna
Yeah, you resonate with people. Yeah, Molly.
I know it's ridiculous, but if the Taliban might ever find out that they work for Taliban in the game, it could raise their morale because they'll be thinking, we're making a difference over there, we're engaged in the game, and we don't want that. We don't want them to think they're winning. We don't want them to think that they're making a difference, like in America or UK or wherever they are.
Yeah.
So I think it's good.
Because one of the major elements of this war on terror is that it's been, obviously there has been a physical battle going on, but it's also been a battle of consciousness, a battle of people's minds. The whole idea of terrorism is to scare people, and like you said, it's an interesting point. So by incorporating the Taliban into a game like this, you could be arguing that they have made such an impact that yes, they have won the war on terror because they are now, essentially being featured in a multi-million-dollar video game production. Anything from this side at all?
Could also be thrown the other way around. Like, it might be in the game, there might be like getting publicity, but then again, all you're doing is just shooting them. You're just killing them all the time. So it might be in there just to show that they're weak and they're pointless. And like in the single player, you always win. You always kill them, you always beat them. Like if they kill you, you don't like have to restart the whole game again. You just restart a checkpoint and you go kill them again.
What about recently? There's been a more recent example of this, and I'm still not sure how I feel about the whole thing. Black Ops. Who knows what I might be talking about with regards to Black Ops? What did you have to do in a mission on Black Ops?
Russian roulette.
Sorry?
Russian roulette.
Oh right, okay. I wasn't aware of that. No, I was thinking more about, was it Castro that you had to assassinate? So, obviously a political dictator, but one that is still alive. Can you imagine, how would you guys feel if you found out that somebody had made a video game where one of the objectives was to shoot you in the head? I'm sure you would. The most of us would as well. Yeah.
Kind of like stylising us as a character in a game.
So this relates back to what Molly was saying.
Yeah.
So kind of stylising and glamorising, in a sense, the group. Yeah.
I think they use like what's happening in reality to put in the game, in the sense that like obviously the West and England, America, those type of countries are seen as like the more good side, and the bad countries are Afghanistan and Iraq and all that because of the war and the terrorists and all that. They're sort of using that within the game as well, and that's why they're targeting their type of people. So the mass population is not going to see it as anything wrong because they're all, then they're just going to see it as, yeah, he's a bad person in real life, But on their defense, they're going to see it as,
I see what you mean.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, they're targeting people within real life that are baddies in real life.
Yeah. Real life.
Real life baddies. Yeah.
I'm just going to put. Oh, okay, Dan. Yeah.
I don't think changing the name really makes that much of an impact because But this is going back to, I think, something happened similar to Army of Two. They wanted out to call their soldiers Taliban, but at the same time they were suicide bombers.
Right.
You knew they were terrorists, and you knew they were Taliban. But I don't think that changing the name really
made that much
of a difference, because we always knew.
Okay. Good stuff. Okay, yeah, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. I mean, I'm sort of neutral on it, I suppose, because obviously, if people don't know what Taliban are, it raises public awareness to what they do. Because obviously, killing people, whatever they do these days, I don't know. But obviously, the only people that are going to be affected by it are Christian fundamentalists that think Jesus is in their penis. But
okay, guys, right. We are starting to run out of time here, so what I want to do is just go for a more, and I want everybody to have made some contribution to this, so have a think about it, and I just want to open it up on censorship and violence in video games in general. And again, if you can remember the sides that you're on, so we'll just go with what's on the paper. So you guys are going to say are for violence, you know, so that means that you're anti-censorship, for violence. You guys are pro-censorship, which means that you're anti-violence, okay? Yes, Reece?
Well, China is obviously the extreme example of censorship.
Okay.
For example, when Blizzard were releasing their new expansion for Lich King, they had to go over the whole game just for a Chinese version of it to get rid of all the bones that were showing, the spikes with the skulls on it, to get rid of that, everything. Because they were so paranoid that the Chinese people are going to go out and get very violent just because they see all this flesh and blood.
Yeah. Does anybody know what China have also banned recently?
Time travel.
Time travel. Brilliant. Any hands up? Censorship, violence, video games, and?
Well, the thing with China is they take like the most graphic parts out of like films, video games, but they complain about it. But it's like, if you've never had it, what's it to complain about? It's like
who complains about it?
Them.
Right.
But you've got people importing the games from wherever with the violence in it. So you've got them that have already played it, but then they're like sort of going off on it, saying, "Oh, this is happening, this is happening. We've got to delete this, we've got to delete that." But it kind of takes out the element of the game. It sort of takes out the point of the game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Freedom of choice, you know.
Yeah.
Whose decision is it whether you get to see bones in video games or not? Guys on this side, what do we go for? Pro-censorship. What do you guys think? Is censorship in video games a good thing? Or no? Well, you've always said yes. So, what do you want to say? Come on, come on. Anything. I'll start just throwing this at people. So.
That usually helps at the law pretty much for.
Anybody at all? Any hands up? Keyjoy, your hands up? Ooh, yeah.
She's throwing the bar at all.
I ain't barring. I don't make deals. Yes, Blake.
The thing with violence in video games is people will use it as an outlet in game just to get themselves immersed into that. Say if they've had like a bad day or something, and they will just want to go home and have a little violence but they're not just going to go out and have that violence with other people. They're not just going to go out, oh, let's go kill this guy for the fun of it because I had a bad day.
Yeah.
They know in their head that if they did it in real life, there are big consequences for it. But they can do it in a game just to get out of living in the real world sometimes, basically.
Yeah. So what Blake's talking about is escapism, and are you familiar with the term catharsis? Catharsis is like what Blake is saying. You've had a crappy day at work or at college, and you go home, you bust a few heads on COD, and you feel a lot better. And there have actually been studies done to prove that this kind of release mechanism that these kind of violent video games provide does have, generally can have a positive effect, because it lets you go, ah, yes, blood. Yeah, Molly.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Blake's saying. When you go to a game and you pick up the controller, you know that you're into a game, and you go into you play as someone else, like I don't know, ninja, and you like triple jump and backflip on someone's head, and cutting their food. It's like
average day for me.
yeah, but yeah, you know you're playing a game. You know you're someone else. It wasn't real. You wouldn't be able to do that in real life. You wouldn't think, oh, I'm going to go and try and do that, like talk back to them. But like that. It's like, you know you're playing a game, you're playing Control, you know you're playing with someone else.
Okay, so I want something from this side now, guys. Molly's saying that, you players are aware that they're playing these games. Yeah, Reese?
To go to Blake's point of view, wouldn't that be just avoiding what the problem is in the first place by going into a game?
Interesting. Yeah, do you want to go with that a little bit more?
By going into a game and ignoring the problem, they could make it worse, or they avoid it completely, which means when they go back to work or whatever and face it again, it could be 10 times worse. They might not be able to hold it in and express the anger because of playing those games.
That is an argument, okay? Blake's talking about catharsis and escapism. Reese is arguing that through that escapism, you are neglecting the actual issue or the problem and just putting it off until, potentially it could all, and then try it.
Well, if you're going to just tackle the problem face on, then say if you've got a problem with one of your students or work colleague, and say if it's like a serious problem and you're going to resort into smacking him on the head or something, then you've got to control yourself. Therefore, the use of being able to take the anger out on a video game sort of helps, because you feel a bit better after you've done it, and then you know that. Because if you tack it hands on, you're going to get either very aggressive or very physical towards the person, and they might not like that. Therefore, if you just stay quiet and just take it out on the game, you're not going to really affect anyone else, are you?
Yeah, okay.
I have to agree with Reese, because I've been in situations where I play games for escapism, but while I was playing the games, I still got cyberbullied. There was people from my school, they found out what game I was playing, and they just logged in just to abuse me and not to even play the game. They're just abusing me. So, is this...
So that's an interesting point. So you're raising the fact that with technology now, essentially, or potentially, there is no escape from your problems. If people can find out, they can chase you. Yeah, Molly?
The media industry is incorporated to block people or block certain players. Sorry. But yeah, because of that problem, because they don't want to encourage violence like that, even cyberbullying, they block people and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I tried that, so I blocked them, and what was they made new usernames, and then still cyberbully me. So then I have to tell someone, it's better in the end, just to talk about it with someone else instead of just spending hours and hours on some game. So
Matthew,
why didn't you create a new username so they have no idea by then?
It's alright talking about these things retrospectively, but yeah, Reese.
Also in a lot of games these days, especially big MMOs or something, you can actually turn off chat, or you can just delete the chat box or whatever, so you don't have to actually have any communication with anyone. If someone like that is doing something like that, then you can just delete it completely and just completely ignore it. And just play.
Based on Reese's point of view as well, in MMORPGs, not only can you just get rid of the chat and ignore what people are saying, once you report it to, let's say, the owner, maker of the game, there's a chance of them, let's say RuneScape, they can IP ban you, which means that you can't actually go on the game anymore.
Right, okay.
So that actually can solve the problem. So for the person to go play on the game, they have to go on the PC, but since the address is banned, they can't go on the game on that channel.
Okay, yeah. PC. Andy, and then Gigi?
I was more about Reese's.
Yeah, no, carry on, yeah.
You were talking about how escapism and stuff like that. Thing is, with all the cases that have happened, it's always been people that have played a game for so long. So if you're not tackling your real world issues and then you keep going back to this game over and over again, that line eventually becomes blurred. Like the guy in America who I think he shot a few officers. He shot 3 of them in their own police station.
Yeah.
He logged over about 100 or something hours of game time on GTA, and if he keeps going to that game to get out of his real world problems, eventually he starts thinking that is the way.
Yeah, okay. Josh?
I just wanted to go back to what Young said about like banning like IPs and stuff. That's all well and good, but there's that many ways to get around it now, like with proxy servers and stuff. Like they used to go on like YouTube in school. Not that I ever did that. And going back to what Sham said about how getting into it can like avoid like violent situations by trying to solve your problems in the real world. Well, surely you shouldn't be solving your problems with violence anyway. There's other ways to go about solving your problems, and ostracising yourself from the rest of society shouldn't be the only way you try to escape it.
Interesting point. Just want everyone to put their hands down for a second because I have to skedaddle shortly. What I want to do is just get 1 point from every single person sat around this table with regards to, so you guys are for violence, so you are anti-censorship, okay? Why is censorship not a good thing? Okay, so just think about a point quickly, and likewise, you guys are for censorship. Why is censorship a good thing? Okay, and I'm going to go around and ask every single person around the table, so have a think about it, okay? And do you think you got something to say?
Well...
So why isn't censorship a good idea? What's wrong with censorship?
I'm not sure. It's like, it's kind of hard to describe because...
And again, sorry, just to pause you there. Remember, again, I have said this is just role-playing, okay? So you don't actually have to think or feel what it is that you're about to say, okay? I had this issue last year with certain students who didn't want to get involved because they didn't see the point, because they didn't think like that. This is role-playing, okay? So you guys are anti-censorship, you guys are pro-censorship, okay?
Am I allowed to be neutral?
No, you're not. Don't be such a wet blanket.
I don't know, it's... I guess it's a bad idea, I guess, because...
It's alright, we can come back to you if you want.
Yeah, come back.
Yeah.
I just think it's down to the individual, or if they're not old enough for parents to kind of look at the game cover.
Yeah.
And if it's, you know,
read the Peggy rating.
Yeah, and just have a look at it before they just mindlessly buy it and give it to a kid.
Interesting, so Stu's saying essentially, read up on it, read some reviews,
There's information on
watch
it.
some videos, use your discretion. Hannah.
Well, I've got it now.
Well
because of it, I think parents should be closer with the kids. I mean, censorship's all well and good, but you've got parents going out and buying it, but they should read the back, like what the game contains, because you've got things like violent graphics, drugs, language,
even specifics, whether it's cartoons,
sexual references, and they're going out and buying like GTA for their kids, and it contains all of that, but. This needs to be a line. There does need to be a line because it's like the 99 to 1. You've got that 1% that's causing this trouble for the 99 gamers.
Yep.
And it's not really our fault. Fair enough, I'm not 18. I know I shouldn't be playing these games, but I'm not going to go out and cause trouble because I've been brought up like that.
Okie dokes. Okay, Cheyenne.
I think we're all leading on the same...
Yeah, no, you're supposed to be.
Just basically, if as a child, if you've got an interest in a certain sport, your parents are most likely going to be pushing towards you, to encouraging you to go into that sport. They'll be supporting you by the side when you do certain, like swimming or something, you're there, encouraging you, whatever sport it is. And that should be exactly the same for games as well. So when you want a game, and if your parents buy it, they should not neglect the fact that they don't understand what the certificates mean.
Very interesting point. So you're saying more interaction, essentially, encouraging parents to join in.
They need to join in, and they need to understand what exactly is, what content is in the game, and therefore they can make the judgment then if the game is suitable for the children or not.
Very interesting. Blake?
With censorship, yeah, there are things that will always be censored. With people's state of mind, it's common sense really that you're not going to see these things and just want to do it yourself. But there's other things like, say if you watched a movie and then played the game of the movie and was like, oh, that's two of the same thing, none of that was censored. I'm going to go and do that now. But that's just not the way people think normally. Like, but with stuff like that, and you just don't think like.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okie dokes.
What you're seeing. So censorship wouldn't really change anything, because if you put a censor on something, you're going to know straight away that's something bad.
Yeah.
If that censor wasn't there, you don't pay as much attention to that being a bad thing.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So desensitization is essentially what we're talking about there, Reese.
You're most susceptible to anything when you're younger. If you're growing up, you're thinking, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. So that's why most of the censorship are on the games that are, 18, they've got all the age ratings, but it stops at 18 because that's when you've grown up, you're adult, you know what's right, you know what's wrong. So I think censoring after that stage, like banning films and stuff, I think is a little bit extreme, because people should have the right to view what they want, because they believe that they're not going to go around and imitate it, because they know what's right, they know what's wrong.
Very good point. Molly?
I think that it should be personal taste. I think you should decide whether you want to censor it or not yourself. Like, for example, the movie Saw, I've only seen like one bits of others. I will not watch any of them ever again, because I think they're disgusting. And I think the writers who like create them are not right in the head. So, but like other people really enjoy them and think, oh, that's a really good storyline, or I like the way how the director's done that bit. So I think it's up to it should be up to you personally whether you want to see it or not.
Yeah, definitely. And with again things like technology advancing, you're now getting the options with things like Apple TV, where before you watch a movie you can watch a trailer for it, read a synopsis of it, giving you an informed kind of, letting you make an informed decision essentially. So yeah, good stuff. Henry?
I think it'd be unfair you sort of have to give the audience the benefit of the doubt, and that you can't assume every person that plays a game is a psychomaniac, and the majority of the people that play just play it for the fun of it. I mean, I'm pretty confident in the fact that in about 10 or 20 years' time, this whole argument would have kind of just gone. Just for the fact that the people that are arguing against it mainly are people that were brought up in a generation in which things like censorship were massive, in a time where like a woman showing her ankles was indecent exposure and things like that. So as soon as as soon as the people that have, like our generation grows up and we become in control, that's when it gets to a point where people kind of accept it more.
Interesting point. Young.
Well, basically based on everybody's on this side point of view, about censorship, well, technically it's actually not that good, because it actually imprisons people's like freedom. And also, well, the reasons probably for censorship is probably like, because like, probably like the older age group, they probably might not know a lot about games and stuff, so they probably think, oh, it's bad. That's the reason why it encourages censorship. And I know I should have been saying this, but do you know the censorship in China? I think it's really bad in a way, because technically the government's already enforcing violence already, just because they have like the most soldiers, and also they have the most nukes. I'm sorry. And also, unlike here, where if you do a crime, you put to jail. I mean, here you put to jail, but in China you actually put to death. So that it's not actually censored in a way. And
so they're using violence to censor violence.
So basically, if you make people think about it, it's all that people are just scared about it. So I don't think that censoring, because that censoring probably wouldn't have made a big difference anyway.
Very good points, Young. Very good points. Yes, Matthew.
People know the difference between sort of like what's not real and what is real. Like in GTA, you get a shotgun and kill somebody. I just like, really hell. Yeah. Oh my god.
Sorry, give me a sec, please, right?
Yeah, you don't get shotgun in real life. Walk outside, go bang, they're dead, do you?
Yeah.
Can you get the
It's alright, stop laughing at it. That's really harsh.
You pop as well.
I'm laughing at you.
So yeah, the line between what's real and what's not real.
Yeah, so the realism, verisimilitude, as it's known, yeah?
Yeah.
Just going back to Blake's point about censorship, basically, if you censor a movie and you censor the swearing, you know exact word that they're going to say because you've heard it before, and you know the lip read as well.
Yeah.
So there's not really much point of actually censoring it because if you censor it,
it raises more.
Yeah, and you're going to notice it, and if you don't censor it, it's just going to fly by.
Okay, cool, good stuff. Yeah, moving on.
In terms of pro-censorship, a point that can reinforce the reason to censor games is because violent games have been tentatively found to increase antisocial behaviour, or rather than, and actually decrease the pro-social ones, which is basically like giving to charity, volunteering, and overall helping sort of behaviour.
Good research there, yes, very true, yeah. Moving on.
Well, I'm not meant to say censorship is good because it protects young ones from violence and real world stuff, but I think it should be modified depending on the viewer, because for example, on some films that are being released, 18 films, there are, in the cinemas, they will have 15 rating showings as well, that sort of reduces the violence. If you know, like in Jurassic Park, if that's shown in the afternoon, they will cut some scenes out. If it's shown after 9 o'clock, they will add that the violence in there.
Yeah.
So I think moderation is
the key.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good point. Yeah. Moving on.
All the cases where, well, nearly all of them, where people, copy what to do in the video games, like kill people. They said, or most of them said, that they've played the game for hours and hours on end, and since that part of the game wasn't censored, it just got into the head. Like since we're playing it for almost 24/7, it just made it just made them change the way they see things. It just like if you don't censor it, it might just blind them and just go, oh, I'll go to that way. Oh, I won't. I'll go to the bad way, not the good way.
Yeah.
No way.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, you know, people who play games 24/7. That is not what games are for. It's like a healthy diet. You know, have a McDonald's every once in a while, have a Domino's once in a while, but not every day. It's stupid. Andy.
Yeah, it's like with the 99 to 1 argument, that even if there is going to be like the 1%, you still need to make sure like that 1% is censored. So like cases like the Norway bombings and people going around shooting police officers don't happen.
Okay, cool. Moving on. Yes.
I mean, I think it's hard for, to censor stuff for ages. I mean, I'm over 18 and I do play 18 games, but I do think there's stuff that's on the market that nobody should view or play because of it just being that brutal. I mean, there's films that have been banned and eventually they've been unbanned because there've been so many cuts to them. So, I mean, it's sort of like what Molly said with watching Saw, and she thinks, the director could be a bit screwed in the head or whatever you want to say. But some people find that as art.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is stuff on the market that deserves to be banned and just left at it and not get cuts or get re-released.
I mean, it's a touchy subject, isn't it? Because once you start blaming one type of art form, because essentially games and films are art, you've got to include all of them. Music will then start being censored and all the rest. That.
I think censorship is good because it protects us from seeing footage, whatever, that could influence our decision in life. And as part of my research, now China is like probably one of the most censored countries. Their crime rate and murder rate is far lower than the murder and death rate and crime rates in England and America.
Very good research, nicely done.
I wanted to touch on Andy's point about the whole 99 1% ratio thing. I think it's best to be safe than sorry because all it takes is that 1% to just to end many lives and cause panic amongst the community. So I think maybe it might be a good idea to get rid of some of the violence in games.
Okay, good stuff. Reese?
I think censorship's been around for years, hasn't it? It's been protecting everyone from all the things that other people think is bad, which we do need. If we had no censorship at all, what's stop then getting rid of the drinking age and making kids go in and have alcohol?
Interesting point, yeah. Very good, yeah. Josh?
I think we need censorship, but not the sort of we've got now, because at the minute it doesn't work. It's like for certain films and games, being banned is the best thing that could happen to them. Like publicity-wise, like the Human Centipede 2, the amount of people are going on about now, because it was banned. And also, I think it comes down to if violence is like the most entertaining thing people get out of different sort of media, I think that says a lot more about just the people playing it than...
Exactly.
I'm not sure I like what that says about society.
Okay, very good stuff, guys. I'm going to have to wrap it up there. Yeah, really impressed. Very well done, guys. You didn't shout at each other, you didn't like laugh at each other apart from that one. That was really good, guys. Very impressed. Good work. And some good reading.